Hello, ladies and gentlemen. In this video, I'm going to be exposing 22 different databases with B2B leads on them that you can take advantage of and find your next 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, even next 100 clients on. And it doesn't matter whether you're targeting ecom companies, SaaS companies, agencies, it does not matter. These databases will have leads for every single possible industry. But with that being said, let's just get right into it. Now, first of all, something that everybody needs to know is that in the outreach game, the person who has the most data is inevitably the person who comes out on top. Anyways, if you think about it, all outreach really is just getting a bunch of the right people, writing the right message and sending them a message on the right platform at the right time. And that's really all it comes down to. So data is the first part of that equation, and you need to have that set straight in order to succeed with your outreach. Okay. But with that being said, let's just get right into it. Now, I'm going to get right into it. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm going to start telling you guys about these different databases, what their benefits are, what their cons are, and you can decide for yourself which ones you want to be using. Now, the first one, I think this is one of the most well-known ones, is Apollo.io. Now, Apollo.io is a general database. I wouldn't say that they're better for any particular industry or any particular niche. They're kind of just, everybody uses Apollo. It's where it works for everything, works for a lot of countries. They're just kind of one of the big players. Now, Apollo is the best for finding decision makers. Some of these other databases, they will not give you direct contact information, right? But Apollo is one of those platforms that will. It'll give you direct contact information. Now, what really sets Apollo apart from everybody else is also the fact that Apollo is a tool which is exportable, meaning there are ways to go on Apollo and basically there's tools and there's secondary things that can allow you to export Apollo lists without paying the outrageous Apollo prices. Now, personally, the best one that I'm aware of is exportapollo.io. They charge, I think, about $3 for every 1,000 leads that you're exporting. So that's kind of the main reason why a lot of people like Apollo. Now, the next alternative to Apollo is Clay.io. Clay is also a very, very popular, or recently getting very popular database. They're just like Apollo in the sense that you can filter, you can put in websites, get back decision makers, but Clay isn't scrapable at the current moment of recording this video. There aren't any Clay scrapers available, so if you are looking to use Clay, you're going to be paying a pretty penny, okay? The next one, Snuv.io. Now, personally, I've never used Snuv. I've heard about them, but they are an alternative to Apollo. They're massive. But again, really, I'm kind of just putting these on here just to sort of stay technical, right? If any of you want to go use one over the other, that's on you. But really, the one that everybody uses is Apollo. That's the one that's the best. That's the one that's the cheapest to export, and so on. Now, there are other databases just like this, like for example, Seamless.ai, but I'm not even going to put them on here because like Seamless.ai has such outrageous prices. I think it's like $100 for 50 leads or something that it wouldn't even make sense for me to talk about it. So although there are other sources like, for example, Seamless, I'm not even going to put them in this database because they're just not going to be helpful to you guys. Okay. But with that being said, continuing, BuiltWith. Now, this is a massive tool that we use in our agency. We use this a lot for e-commerce clients and a lot for SaaS clients. BuiltWith is a tool which, like the name suggests, allows you to find leads that are built with a certain technology. So if you're, for example, say you want to work with Shopify companies, right? You're an e-commerce marketing agency and you want to work with Shopify companies, you could use BuiltWith in order to get a list of websites using Shopify. And then you could add additional filters to it, like, for example, a list of Shopify websites that are in the US that are active and that are also using, say, the Facebook ads pixel in order to sort of dial down the list a little bit more. And then that'll allow you to export websites, which you could later take to something like Apollo, Clay, or Snuv, and go and get decision makers information, right? BuiltWith, super big thing. We use this a lot in our agency, so I really want to mention that one. The next one, Wappalizer. Now, Wappalizer is a competitor to BuiltWith. They are also another tool which pretty much does the same thing. They don't have as much data as BuiltWith, but they do have a much better user experience sort of like on the application. BuiltWith is a little bit hard to use, but you win some, you lose some. So that's Wappalizer. We don't personally use it in the agency just because, we use BuiltWith, but for those of you who really, really, really want to have a streamlined experience, you probably, Wappalizer would be your best choice. Now, the next one, AppSumo. Now, this one is a very interesting angle because it's not necessarily meant to be a leads database, but for those of you targeting SaaS leads, this is going to be an insane vertical to message, right? If you messaged a bunch of SaaS companies that launched on AppSumo recently and you told them, say, for example, hey, I was scrolling at AppSumo and I mentioned you, or, I saw that you guys launched, I'm just curious, can I, would you guys be interested in doing some more marketing or some sort of message like that? And you'll be able to go and segment your email campaigns based on the fact that they've been on AppSumo. And it could be a very interesting angle that a lot of people aren't taking, right? So that's another really interesting one. And by the way, just so you guys know, a lot of these different databases that I'm mentioning, right, they can be scraped using something called Instant Data Scraper. And, matter of fact, I'll actually show you guys an example just because I really want you guys to see what I'm talking about. There's this Chrome extension called Instant Data Scraper, which I'll show you right now. And by using it, you could basically scrape almost anything on the internet. And I'll show you guys what I mean. If I go to, on Apollo, for example, and then I go to account location, I just put in something simple like the United States. If I click this thing right here, as you guys can see, Instant Data Scraper, it immediately finds that table and it's scraping what's on that table. So you see Amazon, Google, Amazon again, LinkedIn, TED Conferences, Microsoft, Forbes, and as you can see, that's what's right here. And you can see while we come here, you can see all of the information, right? These are the websites, you have their LinkedIn pages, their Facebook pages, their Twitters, how many employees they have, and so on, right? So a lot of these tools that I'm talking about, like for example, AppSumo, aren't necessarily directly scrapable, but using an extension called Instant Data Scraper, it's a free extension. It's just on Chrome. If you just search up Instant Data Scraper, you'll find it. You could scrape these databases and get very, very high intent leads, okay? Now, moving forward, another one that's just like AppSumo, Product Hunt. Now, for those of you who don't know, Product Hunt is a platform where SaaS companies launch, right? Meaning, if you, for example, have a SaaS company and you have an interesting idea, you could come on Product Hunt, post about your idea, and if other people think that it's interesting, you'll get upvoted and therefore seen by a ton of other people, and you could end up going and getting a lot of free marketing. I've seen tons of people who launch on Product Hunt end up getting tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of free visitors, and a lot of the time, those people end up converting into actual paying customers, and if your SaaS is good, I'm sure you guys could see how that could be very, very profitable. Now, for us, the marketers, if you guys were to use something like Product Hunt, just like AppSumo, that could allow for a very interesting angle, a very interesting vertical where you could message them, mention that, hey, I saw your listing on Product Hunt. I'm just curious. I'm sure you guys did good, but would you like to do something else outbound, right? And again, what I just said, it's right off the dome, so it's not anything super crazy. But if you're creative, you could write a really good script, and using data like this, which is very, very specialized, you could end up going and sending out very, very effective outreach, right? So that's about it. Now we're going to get into the e-commerce side of things. Now, Store Leads. This is one of those platforms that we heavily use in the agency. We work with a lot of e-commerce clients, a lot of people who, work with companies that sell on Amazon, a lot of people who work with people that do stuff on Shopify. So Store Leads is a must for us. They have a lot of data, a lot of very good filtering. One of the best parts about Store Leads is the fact that you could sub-segment there. So if you are, for example, looking for fitness and beauty leads, you could sub-segment fitness and beauty into makeup and then the other subcategories that would be there, right? So honestly, Store Leads, one of my favorite platforms on this list. The next one, BrandNaav. Now, BrandNaav is another alternative to Store Leads. Really kind of what sets them apart is they use a lot of AI stuff. So the filters and the keywords and sort of all that stuff, it's a lot better. But again, with AI, a lot of the time there could be issues. So it's an interesting situation. In the top 1% of times, BrandNaav is going to give you much better results, but most of the time it's going to give you worse results because that's just kind of how AI is at the current moment. Okay, I'm sure in the future AI is going to get a lot better and it'll be sort of near perfect, but at the moment, I prefer Store Leads over BrandNaav, but for yourselves, definitely consider the both of them. Now, this is another one that's very unique. It's not meant to be a leads database, but the Meta, TikTok, and LinkedIn ads library. Now, for those of you who are running some agency offers where you might be targeting people who are already running ads, or maybe you're targeting people who are running ads in some sort of industry, like for example, I used to have a marketing agency, an SMMA, which worked with roofers. And a lot of the time when we wanted to target roofers, we would go on the Facebook ads pixel, type in the keyword roofing, and start scraping people who were already running ads. And most likely speaking, a lot of roofers don't know what they're doing. So when we did message them and we did tell them, we saw your ad, it didn't make sense, and we want to do them for you, obviously they would be very, very enticed. And it wouldn't feel like it's cold outreach. They'd feel like it was actually personalized. Okay, so it's another one of those things that you got to be creative with it. You can use the Instant Data Scraper to scrape it and sort of go from there. But that's another very, very powerful platform I would recommend everybody take a look at. The next one, Charm.io. This is another e-commerce platform. It's an alternative to Store Leads and BrandNaav. I'm not really sure about their targeting. I haven't really used them much, if I'm being totally honest, but Charm.io does have a decent amount of data. I mean, it's going to be a lot of similar data to Store Leads and BrandNaav, just like sort of all the databases are, but it's really just like a matter of which UI you like most at this point. They're really all the same thing, but, you know, it's worth mentioning. Now, Clutch.co is not the biggest database. It pales in comparison to the ones that we just talked about. But the thing with Clutch is it's best for agencies, and you can target on very specific agencies. So if you want specifically SEO agencies that work with specifically e-commerce companies, using something like Clutch.co, you could end up going and finding those people. Now, again, Clutch.co is not a leads database. It's not meant to be, used for any sort of outreach. Clutch.co is meant to find or is meant to connect an agency with a business owner and sort of help facilitate that transaction. That's how Clutch.co runs their business. Now, again, using something like Instant Data Scraper, you could go take their data, re-upload it into something like Apollo, and get decision makers information. And you guys will notice a very big commonality in a lot of these different methods is a lot of the lead databases that we use aren't necessarily lead databases, right? Because all of the lead databases have already been messaged and have already been emailed thousands and thousands of times. You have to start really getting creative with how you're going to do outreach, especially in 2024, where more and more people are starting to run ads and more people are doing outreach. Okay. Now, with that being said, that's Clutch. The next one I want to talk about, now we're getting into the local lead side of things, is D7 Lead Finder. Now, for those of you who've watched like some of the bigger creators in the SMMA niche, like Jordan Platten, Joe Kaplan, you guys know they talk a lot about D7 Lead Finder. D7 Lead Finder is a great platform, or at least it used to be a great platform, but recently the data on there has gotten really saturated. We used to use D7 Lead Finder in the agency when we used to do stuff for local service businesses, and a lot of the time people would legitimately tell us, we'd call me like, did you find my phone, my phone number on D7 Lead Finder? So the leads on there, they are very, very saturated. It used to be good. I wouldn't recommend using it now, but that's sort of worth mentioning. The next one is Yelp. Now, again, like the other ones I mentioned, like Clutch, like the TikTok ads library, it's not meant to be a leads database. But if you are looking for local leads, something like Yelp is going to give you much better and higher quality data than something like D7 Leads Finder. Okay, I'm sure there's Yelp scrapers on the internet that you could just pay, a couple of dollars for and they'll do it for you. But again, if you are looking to sort of like just not pay for anything, you have D7 Lead Finder. You could go scrape those companies, take them to something like Apollo, and get super cheap qualified leads. Okay. Then the next thing, Google My Business. Now, Google My Business is just like Yelp. We prefer it over Yelp any day of the week. It's easier to scrape. There's more data. It's higher quality. Everybody's on Google My Business, which is a local business. So it's a great way to do outreach. And overall, again, use Instant Data Scraper. I'm going to keep mentioning them because they are an essential part in the outreach process at this point. And for local businesses, you're not going to get anything better than Google My Business profiles. If you just search like HVAC near me, I'll show you guys an example. Like if you search HVAC near New York City, for example, right? And then you go down to one of these sections and you turn on the Instant Data Scraper. As you can see, it's going to start scraping those. And you guys can see that you can even click Locate Next button and then go down here, click Next, and it'll keep going page by page by page by page and scraping all the data that you might need. Okay. So that's another really good method that we like using. Now, the next one, Crunchbase. Now, this one, it's for SaaS leads. I mean, you're not really going to get much from Crunchbase aside from SaaS leads. And this is best for if you're looking for specifically funded SaaS companies. So if you're working on some sort of offer where you really want to know whether a company has had venture capitalist funding or private equity funding, Crunchbase is a great database for that information. You're going to find a lot of information on there. At the moment, I don't think there is an easy way to scrape Crunchbase. Instant Data Scraper isn't necessarily going to work on that, so you are going to have to pay a little bit of money. But again, if you are looking to target those types of leads, you're going to have to pay a premium. Okay? Now, GetLoka is pretty much like Clutch, but for software companies. They are not a large database, but if you go on there, you will have a lot of, a lot of leads that are very, very, very interesting angles. Like, for example, you could go there and you could find AI-powered productivity apps that are specifically in the United States, right? Otherwise, you're not going to have ways of segmenting to that level. Now, again, GetLoka is not meant to be some sort of lead database. They are meant to connect agency owners together. So you are going to have to use something like Instant Data Scraper. So that is what you guys are going to have to do. And for those of you wondering, how do we do this at scale? We have tools built out for this sort of stuff, meaning we have tools which actually interact with their APIs, and we're able to pull any amount of data at any time in any quantity. So we're not at the point where we're using Instant Data Scraper, but at the start when our agency was just small and we were just getting started, that's how we ended up doing things. So unless you're going to be scraping tons of leads in tons of different industries and tons of different segments, Instant Data Scraper should do. Okay. Now continuing, Agency Vista. Now Agency Vista is just like Clutch. It's also for agencies, as the name suggests. It's not a large database. It's not even anywhere near as big as Clutch. But again, it's very easily scrapable. Just Instant Data Scraper will do on this one. So there really isn't any reason why you shouldn't use them. If you're building a lead list and you want to have a lot of segmentation built in, you're going to have to go to several different sources. So Agency Vista is just one of those. Now, Sortlist is another one of those, which is for agency leads. It's just like Agency Vista. It's very scrapable. Again, Instant Data Scraper. I'll keep saying it. You can go on there, scrape some leads, go take those, enrich them, and go from there. Okay, and the last one is G2. G2 is one of my personal favorites because they have such high intent quality leads. For those of you who've ever been on G2, you know how much of a pain it is to be on there. It is not easy to be on G2. It's not easy to get reviews on G2. It's not easy to get on G2. It is a pretty big hassle. Meaning, although they won't have as many leads as some of the other platforms, the leads that are on G2 are going to be very high quality leads, especially if you're looking for SaaS and especially if you're looking for agencies. Okay. Now, that about finishes with the database, but this video is not done. I do have one more thing that I'd like to mention for you guys. Now, if you're watching this and you're thinking to yourself that this is a lot of information, then you are kind of right. This document only really went over where to find the leads, but that's kind of just the tip of the iceberg. You still need to figure out copywriting, split testing, offer creation, offer positioning, call to actions, awareness and commitment levels, lead lists, segmentation, personal brand after initial emails, and so much more. So if you'd like to just skip the hassle and only get the results, we can go get you results like this. These are some of the cold email campaigns that we're running for some of our clients. We have 48 interested responses, 169 responses, 99 interested responses. This is our personal Calendly. We have tons of meetings being booked in on Calendly. This is one of the CRMs for an agency that I used to run, right, where we were booking in home improvement clients. These are local leads, right? If you want 67 opportunities in just a span of a month, if you want to be sending out emails which have a 99.5% deliverability and you're getting tons of positive responses on a complete pay-per-qualified call basis, meaning you're only going to pay us if the prospect that we book for you shows up, makes enough money to work with you, wants your service, and is a decision maker, then you can come book a call below. I'm going to put this document, first link in the description. I'm also going to have the booking link in the description as well. So if you want to just skip right to that, then we can do that as well. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe. This is a small channel, so I notice really every single person. And with that being said, thank you guys for watching. You guys have a good day.